Here's what you can look forward to on this episode of The Nice Guys on Business.
My goal is to educate. Not, I could care less about doing a tax return. And it's the same with the results. I want to educate and make your future better. I love seeing people go from poverty to wealth. And that happens by proper training, proper strategies, and proper estimating.
You may have seen a housefly, or maybe even a superfly, but you've never seen the Nice Guys on Business fly. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
All right, Nice Guy community, would you like more money in your pocket? Well, if so, today might be your day. So Jeff Hockett, owner of Hockett Tax, has been doing this for his clients since 1993. Let's put a little bit more money in your pocket, and let's put some advice in your brain. Jeff, welcome to the Nice Guys.
Thanks, Doug. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor to be on your show.
I'm happy to have you here. Enjoy having you as a production client with TurnKey. One of the things I noticed almost immediately from episode 1 is your cadence when you're doing your episodes is so melodic and wonderful to listen to. It's almost like the Paul Harvey of tax advice. Is that by design, or is this how you talk, or tell me a little bit about that?
Just kind of natural. That's just how I talk. It's who I am. You know, I don't try and sugarcoat things. I don't try and be somebody I'm not, at any time. I just try and be as natural as possible, and that's how it comes off. So
I wait for you at some point to say, and now you know the rest of the story. Good day. I just wait. I wait for that as I listen to your episodes. And what I really love about your show is that you have it's a short format show, so it's bite-sized bits of information that people can get about trying to keep more money in their pocket. I think you most recently did an episode on things you should quit. And I think that was the last one that came out just a couple of days ago, or maybe it was even yesterday as of the recording of this. And it's not just financial advice or tax advice. It's good human being advice to get. Again, was that part of the plan when you originally sat down to write the show?
It was. Yeah, I try and focus on coaching and helping people. So as a business owner, it's not so much always about your financials. It's about the other stuff that drags people down. And, like one of the things I say that you need to quit is our own brains. They're our worst enemies. Our biggest competition's between our shoulders, and that voice telling you can't do it. And, you're tired of hearing no. They're just going to tell you no, don't bother. And so I try and coach people that you got to hear no before you get to a yes. And most people are going to say no, 7 to 8 times before that yes comes. And most people are going to give up after about 2 or 3 times. And that's why they never succeed in business, because they get tired of hearing that no. For me, when someone tells me no, I like it, because that just means I'm one step closer to that yes coming.
I'm with it. That was a big philosophy that my dad had. You go for the no, and the yes is going to come at some point anyway. And you may as well expect the no, because you're going to get more of them. In a time and position that most people are running away from the education that they can get when it comes to taxes or the IRS or anything as it relates to their business financials, you ran towards that flame rather than running away. What was your fascination with dollars, cents, taxes when you first got started doing what you do?
Sure. So as a kid growing up, one of my favorite games was Monopoly. And I loved Monopoly because it involved money and real estate. And two of the things I really fell in love with as a kid. And as I started to get older and into high school, and even, as I progressed through my 20s and 30s, I noticed a lot of people don't really understand money. It's not something that's taught in schools. And money is an important factor in people's lives. In fact, it's one of the highest divorce rates of families is money issues. People get addictions or something. They hide money, gambling, whatever it may be. They're hiding the money, or they're just overspending because they don't understand the value of money. I deal with so many clients who go out and they buy a lot of property, for example, and they leverage everything and they get over leveraged. Now, I'm not saying that leveraging is a bad thing. It can definitely be a good thing. But when you over leverage, it creates a negative. Anything that you do too much of can cause a negative versus a positive. And so just understanding dollars and cents, most people aren't on a budget. Most people, it's funny because I'll have a client schedule an appointment with me. And one of the first questions I ask them is, how much money do you make? And 9 times out of 10, they can't even tell me, and then when they do tell me, usually it's their gross. And I say, okay, that's your gross. What's your net? I would say less than 1% of the time they know that number.
Wow.
And I mean, how can you live your life if you don't know how much money you have to spend? I just don't understand it. And so that was my burning passion inside, was to get to people, help them understand money, because numbers make sense to me. A lot of people, I can walk into an art gallery and the paintings are just boring to me. I mean, they don't mean nothing. I see a painting that's worth $5 million and I'm like, why would someone pay that? But when you're in that art industry, you look at it and you're like, oh, look at the brush strokes, look at this and that. And that's how money is to me. When I see dollars and cents, you can send me over a big spreadsheet, and within a few minutes, I can analyze those numbers and have results.
Well, I'm not a spreadsheet guy, but I am a guy that likes to run my finance of my home through a budget. And I look at budget as most people don't. Most people look at budget as control and restriction. I look at budget as freedom and abundance, because now I know where portions of the money that comes into my home are able to be spent. And there are some months that we go a little over budget, and there's some months that we go a little under budget. And for me, it's the measuring stick of how I manage how I manage the capital that's coming in, and provides an opportunity for me to put savings away in other places. But I'm curious, what was it in people's lives that created the budget is a control thing and the budget is a restriction thing? Do you have any idea? Because you seem to deal with it on much more of a level, a higher level than I do.
Well, I think budgets and taxes are two things that people scare away from. And I think the reason is because of lack of knowledge. When we don't understand something, it creates a fear, and that fear makes us not want to be near it. People look at budgets as, oh, I'm restricted, but you're not. I mean, if you made $1,000 a month and you wanted to spend $1,000 a month on Starbucks coffee, then that's what your budget is. Who am I to say that's wrong? But if you only make $1,000 a month and you got a $1,500 Starbucks coffee bill, now we have a problem because you're going negative every month. So it's not so much what's in your budget. And I think that's what people get focused on. They're like, oh, I don't want to have a budget because, I don't want to limit how much coffee I can drink or how much movies I can go to or how much I can go out to eat. It's not limiting anything. It's saying, hey, I make X amount of dollars a month. I want X amount of dollars going to each of these categories. And at the end of the month, it's zero, maybe. That's what you want, is zero budget. Whether you make $1,000 a month or $1 million a month, get those numbers down to zero, however you want to do it. It's just important.
You mentioned the other fear that many people have in addition to budgets is the IRS. You mentioned taxes. So I'm always, they change the rules so often that not having a professional on your side or someone that can at least share with you the rules. My job as a podcast producer has nothing to do with taxes and all of the different deductions that are made. We bring in somebody in our organization to teach us about that. How do you ever lose that? I mean, obviously putting a team member somebody on your team that would know that stuff is much more to your advantage. But how do you not have a fear of something like that where, I mean, literally you get a notice in the mail saying, hey, you owe another $7,000 for something. And you're like, where the F did that come from? It's the unknown. It's the fear of getting that letter in the mail. How do you ever not have that fear?
Well, I think it deals with having a great tax planner, for one. And not that, my clients don't still get that letter. And, again, it's a budgeting thing that they get it. But more importantly, I don't think it's so much the fear of getting that letter. It's just they don't want to pay taxes, right? So I use the example. If you want $1 million lottery ticket right now, okay, it's going to cost you about $380,000 in taxes. And everybody's focused on that. Like, how can I reduce that, Jeff? You can't. You just won $1 million. You're not, there are no write-offs for that.
Okay.
But they're focused on, oh, I'm giving up 380. And my thing is, no, you made 620.
Right.
So if we focus on the money we made, then the taxes don't matter. I mean, I'm a tax guy. I've been doing taxes for 30 years. And I still pay around $500,000 a year in taxes. Now, if I wanted to pay less than that, I could make less money. I choose not to do that. I'm fine paying them $500,000 a year. Do I like it? No, but I like the income that I generate in order to pay that bill. And I know it's coming. So all it is a budgeting thing where you just plan. I know that every quarter I need to send in $125,000. So every month I need to send in $40,000 or whatever it may be, that's a large numbers. I mean, people, most of my clients, they get a $14,000 or $15,000 tax bill and they're like, oh my God, Jeff, how do I reduce this? And it's like, really? I mean, that's like a weekly tax bill for me. So, but I understand because the hardest thing is when people make $50,000 to $60,000 a year and they have to pay in $15,000 to $20,000 in taxes. That's a lot of their income. That's difficult. I get that. But what I see, especially with independent contractors, people that are 1099, own their own companies, they made a lot of money during the year, but they didn't plan any of it. They didn't budget anything, and they spent all that money. I mean, I have so many clients that say, Jeff, I bought a rental house and I completely remodeled it and paid all cash for it. Oh, great. But what are you going to do about this IRS bill of $30,000?
Right.
Well, will they do an installment agreement? It's like, come on, man. Why are you paying them extra interest? You didn't want to pay them in the first place, and now you're willing to give them interest. And the other thing that it just drives me crazy is we just got done filing extensions, filing all the S Corporation extensions on Monday.
Right.
And, a lot of these people owed money, and now they're going to have late payments because they didn't make any payments back in April. It's like, yeah, you extended the time, but you didn't extend when you had to pay. I mean, the IRS wants their money on April 15th. So when we look at the expenses of the penalties and the interest, it's just mind-blowing to me. And then that's the client that's saying, how do I reduce my taxes? It's like, well, file on time and it would save you a lot of money.
It's amazing that you said I used to have a partner that I no longer have, but he was my partner for 20 years and he was the majority owner of the company. And he was notorious for filing every extension. So September 15th and October 15th for your business and your personal taxes, he would get, which would cause me to have to get the extensions. I would do my best to try to head off what I think was going to be the payment that was owed on April 15th, thereby reducing the amount of interest and penalties that I was going to pay. And he didn't care. That was just his thing. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I 100% agree with you. I'm like, why does somebody go to the extent of doing these extensions? Those to me are like the biggest bee in my bonnet under the sun when it comes to taxes.
It's just such a waste of money. I mean, I had a client the other day that we filed like the middle of August for him, and he just finally got his bill from the IRS. He owes $25,000 in late filing and penalties. And it's like $25,000, that's a lot of write-offs to make up for that. It's just a waste of money, and just being responsible as adults, I think is very important. So that's why I try and coach and teach and talk about taxes.
And what's interesting about it is it seems like, and I'm sure you've repeated yourself so many times through the years of all of these things, it seems like it's a lot of the basics. Are you contributing to your 401k? Do you have an HSA? Are you contributing to an IRA? Are you taking every possible write-off that you can? Are you incorporated, or are you doing it as a sole proprietor? I'm sure all of these pieces of information is information that you're repeating yourself over and over and over again. What's one that people first of all, what's one that people do get and they understand almost immediately? And what's one that they don't get and you're like hitting your head against the wall saying, why don't you get this?
Well, the one that they do get is paying their kids. If you have kids 7 years or older, you can pay your kids to work for you. This year you can pay them $14,600. They don't even have to file a tax return. Mm-hmm. This is the absolute best write-off there is out there. It's putting money back into your pocket. you're saving about $3,000 on your tax return, and it's so simple to do. The things that people don't get, and the things that I struggle the most with, is a 401k, cost segregation on rentals, and 179 depreciation. Everybody wants to do it. And let's look at the 401k for an example, because you brought it up. If we have an IRA, okay, if I put $25,000 into my IRA this year, it's going to save me roughly $5,000 on my taxes.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, $5,000 is nothing, okay? Because what I look at is how old are you? And most of my clients are going to be anywhere from 25 to 45. Okay, so we got 20 to 40 years before they're going to retire. When they reach 65 and they want to pull that $25,000 out, how much is it going to cost them then? Okay, I see so many baby boomers that reach retirement age, and Social Security is a joke. I mean, I think we all agree on that. It's not very much money. So they got to pull out their IRA. So when you pull out your IRA, you're raising the taxes that are paid on Social Security. And now you're paying taxes on that money. And everybody says, well, when I retire, I plan to make less money. Well, I don't want to live on less money. If you're used to living on $100,000 a year, look at how inflation's gone. Okay. You think in 20 years from now that you can live on less than $100,000 a year? Not likely. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to still be living on $100,000 a year. You pull that money out. Now you pulled out $100,000. That's 4 years worth of putting $25,000 in. So you save $20,000. You're going to pay $20,000 minimum in taxes. That's today's tax code. Okay.
It's a wash.
20 years from now, I'm sure taxes are going to go up, right? I mean, the federal government needs more money. So you just washed, but not only that, you just made your Social Security get taxed at a higher rate than it would have if you hadn't had to pull that 100. So what I tell people is put that 25,000 in, but then backdoor it into a Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens is you don't get a write-off today. You don't save that $5,000 today, but now you have $100,000 after 4 years setting in a Roth IRA. Now you reach 65, you pull out $100,000, it costs you $0. Okay. So that's just what people don't understand. They can't wrap their head around.
And my understanding also, just correct me if I'm wrong here. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. We'll continue in just one quick second. But can't someone that has put X amount of dollars into a traditional IRA do a conversion yearly to a Roth, so that even though they're going to be paying taxes now, again, you're eliminating the whole getting taxed down the road on the interest, and you don't get any tax on the interest.
Right. You absolutely can do that. However, most people are making a lot of money, so it doesn't make sense to always do it. You could be jumping tax codes. So I do have some clients who are slowly converting, and we'll go in and we do tax planning for them and say, okay, you're in a 20% tax bracket right now. If you pull 50,000, you'll stay in that 20% tax bracket. If you pull 60, you'll go up to 22. So maybe we don't want to do that, But if you backdoor it the same year you're putting it in, so like for me, 25,000 goes in. So I'm writing 25,000 off on my business side. Then on my personal side, I'm claiming that 25,000 back as income because it's conversion. You pay taxes on it at that point. So it equals $0 on my tax return. So it's the perfect way to build my Roth without paying any additional taxes on that money. But certainly, if you have it from 5 years ago, you can slowly convert, but you need a tax guy to just make sure, because you go and move, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 from a traditional to a Roth, it may kill you too. So we want to just make sure on that.
So we talked about a little bit about taxes and tax liability. You mentioned real estate. I want to talk about that for a moment. What is a nicely diversified plan for the future look like? If you're just looking at the general world as a lump sum, is there I know it's not one size fits all for everybody, but is there a diversification package that you would specifically recommend for people in general?
Well, yeah, I think it all depends on what someone's goals are. Some people really like real estate. Some people really like stocks. Some people like cryptocurrency. Okay. I'm not a cryptocurrency guy. I don't think it's probably a safe, thing. And a lot of people have made money in it. I had a client last year who lost $2.5 million in crypto because the company he had it with went bankrupt, and It's $0 for him. You don't get a write-off, nothing, so it's dangerous. But if you want to play the game, but like in Monopoly, the whole idea was to buy property, right? And then people rent it from you. there's no better way in America to get wealthy than to own real estate, in my opinion. Okay. Now, should you have commercial, residential? Again, depends on your tolerance. Commercial's better because the tenants pay for everything. Residential, you're a landlord, but you hire property managers. But, I like to keep a residential property. I like to have 3 or 4 in a portfolio for most people, especially W-2 people. They don't get any write-offs.
Right.
A rental is 9 times out of 10 going to take a loss for you on a tax return. So it's a great thing for people. I have W-2 people all the time say, hey, should I start a small business? It's like, okay, why would you do that? Well, to reduce my taxes. Oh, so you're not going to make money in your business? Is that the idea? They're like, well, I want to. It's like, okay, well, when you make money, you pay more taxes, the self-employment taxes, all these things. So rentals, you don't have self-employment taxes. Rentals, usually, if you have a mortgage on them, that's even better because now you're writing off that interest. It's not such a bad thing anymore. But the depreciation on a rental helps you. Now, I mentioned cost segregation a few minutes ago. A lot of people want to do that. I suggest not doing that because, again, they're only looking at the short term on this, not long term. And with my clients, I don't care about this year's tax return. I want 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. And so when we cost segregation something, what that means is that you hire somebody to come in, they look at your appliances, they look at your paint, they look at your roof, and everything gets depreciated on an accelerated schedule. So you might save 40 or 50. Well, you're not going to save 40 or 50,000 in taxes. You might get 40 or $50,000 worth of stuff that got segregated out. Okay. So the average person, 20% tax bracket, you had $50,000 worth of accelerated depreciation. It saves you $10,000 in taxes. Well, that's great, for this year. But a couple of years from now, when you have to replace those appliances, you have to recapture that depreciation. So it's income to you. And now you're starting over again. So in the future, it's going to cost you more money than what you're saving today. And so that, I think, is the hardest thing for people to understand because so many tax preparers out there are interested in saving you the most money they can today and not looking out for your future. And to me, the future is more important than this year's tax return.
What do you find yourself gravitating more towards someone that is self-employed or somebody that's W-2'd? And what advantages or disadvantages are to either one of those environments?
No, I mean, when I first started doing my business, everybody was W-2'd. I really didn't know much about business and business taxes. And as I started my own businesses, now my main clientele are business owners. That's who I want. W-2's fine, but honestly, people that do tax preparation for W-2s, they're probably going to be without a job in the next 5 to 10 years. As AI gets better and better, and now the IRS has come up with programs where if all you have is a W-2, you don't even have to file your own tax return anymore. They're going to file it for you. Because like I say, there are no write-offs for W-2. So,
right.
What your paycheck says is what you get. And so people, a couple of years ago, they changed the W-4 for W-2 people. And so people used to get big refunds. Well, when they changed that form, most people didn't know how to fill it out. So now they're owing money. And they're like, Jeff, I don't understand. Every year I got a refund. Now all of a sudden I owe $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. What happened? And it's like, well, the form's changed. You say you still had deductions, so they weren't taking as much out of your paycheck. And so with business owners, it's more of a challenge to me because my goal is to educate. I could care less about doing a tax return. And it's the same with the results. I want to educate and make your future better. I love seeing people go from poverty to wealth. And that happens by proper training, proper strategies, and proper estimating.
Talk to me for a moment about the business model that you've set up. Are you doing tax preparation, coaching, and planning for people? Are you I'll let you share. Tell me how you work with your clients.
Sure. So we have a few different programs. My son works in my business with me. And so he's more focused on the W-2 person, the person that's only going to come in every year. And we do your tax return, you drop your stuff off, you leave. We do it and we see you next year. Okay. The way I work is I have monthly subscriptions for my clients. So you pay me monthly, you get on a subscription with us. And this allows you to get your tax return done for free because when you pay for a personal tax return, it's not a write-off to you. and I think everything you pay me should be a write-off. So we set it up as a consulting fee. It gives you opportunities throughout the year to schedule meetings with me. We can do tax planning. We can talk about coaching. We can talk about CFO stuff. I can go over your P&L with you. I can teach you. I can educate you. In fact, I got a podcast coming out in a few days. I did an interview with one of my clients on Monday. And when he first started, he was a disaster. And now he checks in with me every quarter. He fully understands his P&L. And that's what I want. That's what my desires are. Like I say, the guy that just wants their taxes done, okay, that's simple, that's easy, but I want to help people that really want to understand it. And I'm not teaching you how to do your own tax return, don't get me wrong. I'm just showing you how to read a tax return because I think it's important to make sure there's not errors, but more importantly, how to budget and plan for your future. What's your future wealth going to be like? Because everybody's so interested in today, but what about tomorrow?
So how do you work with a client? I'm even thinking about my own needs here as a guy that owns a business, but I have a second business also. And my partner has a W-2 because he works another job and he also has a part-time income. So we look at the overall package that we have. It's like, okay, there's 2 business returns. There's 2 personal returns. There's obviously the tax advice. We don't want to be tax experts, but we would like to know a little bit more, but we don't know what we don't know. There's payroll, and then there's bookkeeping, and there's all of the things. Are those relationships that you have established with partners that do that stuff, or do you do that, or how does that work when somebody comes to you and says, "I really just need an overall, full approach to our taxes and tax returns"?
Yeah. So my firm, that's one of our subscriptions. That's our top subscription tier. We'll do all your bookkeeping. We're going to process all your payroll. We're going to give you all the advice, all the training. Do your tax returns, everything that a person would need in our top tier thing. And then we have people down at the bottom tier who only want us to do their tax returns. So we do everything. I also do tax resolution work. I help people get offers, get installment agreements, deal with those letters that come that, hey, you owe $7,000. What's this for? All the scary stuff that comes from the IRS. That's what we're here for. And so if you just came in and did your taxes and then, you did those back in March, April, and now today you get that $7,000 letter, you reach out, it's going to cost you a bundle of money for me to explain it to you.
Right.
But if you're on our monthly package, that's included. We're going to work through it. We're going to educate you, help you, and that's where my heart is. That's what I really enjoy, is taking the person, educating them, teaching them about money, showing them how it all works together. And like I say, it's not so much about eliminating tax debt, because if you make money, you're going to pay taxes. That's the way life is.
And do you work in any number of states, or do you work specifically in Arizona? How does it work for you?
No, I work all over the country. In fact, I usually leave Arizona around the end of April, and I don't get back till around Thanksgiving. I spend 7 months on the road, and a lot of that time is going to cities and having meetings with business owners, groups, and training them, teaching them, doing seminars. I wrote a book. So most of my clients are going to be real estate agents. So I'll go to, say, like I'm in Foley, Alabama right now. So I'll reach out to a bunch of top brokerages here, send them my book around the first part of the year and say, hey, look, I'm going to be in Alabama in September. Could you get a bunch of your agents together that would like to learn about taxes? And here's my book, let's see what we can do. And always they're going to schedule a meeting. I'll have anywhere from 30 to 100 people at that meeting. And I just get up and talk to them about running a business, what it's like. Everybody wants my business card. Well, I don't give out business cards because giving you my business card does nothing for me. So if you want me to get in contact with you, you give me your business card, and I promise you're going to get a follow-up. So everybody gives me their business card at the end. In fact, I'll usually give away a couple books for your business card. We'll have a drawing or whatever. But I want your business card. I don't want you to have mine because that's useless to me. So
Understood.
I get their business cards. Go ahead.
No, you keep going. How do you do something like that to scale, though? I mean, you're one guy and you have your son, and I'm sure it's a thriving, huge business. But I'm assuming you have many team members, whether they're remote or they work locally, or is it just the 2 of you?
Just the 2 of us. It's all systematic. So any business can run smooth with systems, right?
Yeah,
and I don't change those systems. So, if you were my client and you called me right now, you're going to get my voicemail. If you call me tomorrow, you're going to get my voicemail. And the reason for that is because you don't have a scheduled meeting with me. You can't just pick up your phone and call me. Can you pick up your phone and call your lawyer? Can you pick up your phone and call your doctor? No, it doesn't work that way. I'm a professional too. I expect you to expect my time. So, you call me right now. I'm on this show. Obviously, I'm not going to answer. So you leave me a voicemail. Let's say after this show, I decide to call you back. Well, now all of a sudden you're busy. So I leave you a voicemail. We just wasted each other's time, both of us. Whereas if you just go to my website, click on request appointment and schedule that phone call for today at 3:00 or tomorrow at 9:00, whatever it may be. Now you're in my calendar and that phone call is going to happen. So it's all systematic. Some people don't like that, and that's fine. They don't need to do business with me. The one thing I've learned, and I think one thing that most people, business owners especially, miss out on, is they try and do business with everyone.
Everybody that's got a check is not my client.
Yeah. I don't need you. If you're going to be a pain in the rear and high maintenance, go somewhere else. I don't need that. And so that's one of the things I have very upfront with my clients in our very first consultation is here's how I operate. If you want to operate like that, great. If you don't, then I'm not your guy because I don't have the time. Like you say, I have all these people. Could I hire people? Yes. And I own 4 other companies and I have lots of employees that work them. So it's not about having employees. But in my tax business, there's too much information that's vulnerable to people that I just don't trust anybody else having that information.
No, and I appreciate that. It's I definitely want to have a conversation with you beyond this. I think this podcast was more self-serving for me than it wasn't sharing information about you, because now I have a whole bunch of questions about wanting to get you my tax business, because you're the exact guy that fits the mold of exactly who we need as a provider of service, because sounds like you have a great system in place, which we really believe in processes and system. We do the same thing with our production business, as you know, by being a client of ours. We're dialed in pretty tight, and I'm sure you're dialed in pretty tight too. And I know you care and you're passionate about what you do. You have a wealth of knowledge in that head of yours, and it's not just to turn a buck. It sounds like you're passionate about what you do and love helping your clients do the same.
Yeah. Money's going to come and go. Like I say, money's the worst of my worries. It's all about just taking care of people. And I've helped people build property management companies, someone that came from zero to making $1 million a year and managing 600 homes, and that's rewarding to me. They didn't pay me a dime to get that knowledge and that experience. It was just something I do. And that's how I take on my tax business too, and if you do it for free, I've found that most people don't take it seriously. So that's why we do charge.
Right.
But, one thing you taught me in doing podcasts was when you're on a show, it's to get the person on the other side of the screen to do business with you. So I look forward to our meeting, Doug.
Me too, Jeff. Me too. So for those in our community that have not heard Jeff's show, take a moment. I click the link in the show notes. There'll be access to More Money in Your Pocket with Jeff Hockett, and it'll be there, and access to his website as well. Anything I should be asking you that I haven't yet asked you, Jeff?
I think you've done a real good job, Doug. I think, like I say, taxes are just something we have to learn to accept. They're not going to go away. They're probably only going to go up. They're going to offer different tax breaks for different things. And having that professional that's working in your corner to help you through that, so that you as a business owner don't have to waste your time trying to read 9,000 pages of jumble.
Well said. Yeah, stay in your zone of genius. And in my lane is definitely not. I'd love to understand them a little bit more, but doing them, I don't. That's just not my business. I would never ask you to pick up an editing software or, something that would be outside of your zone of genius. So I don't expect to do the same thing no matter who I work with. That's why I'm hiring the professionals to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
For those in our community, check the link in the show notes for more information about Jeff and how to get to him. Jeff, thanks for being on the show. Thanks for sharing right here.
You bet, Doug.
Hey, and Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
Friday advice and Tuesday interviews with people far more interesting than they are. Fill up your week with the nice guys. Have fun storming the castle.